Hello, I'm Deb. Today I'm going to be giving brutal truth about what people are actually looking for in club applications. So people are usually really nice about it and sugarcoat everything and say, "Oh, it's okay. If this and that and that." Okay, well, I'm gonna give you the brutal truth, and you should take this advice because I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. And if I'm known for anything, it's I get to the point, and I am not sugarcoating. So I was a member of Terrific Tigers, and I successfully got in my first try in 2020. And then I got in again in December of like 2022, and now I'm in a different club, and I also got in my first try. So don't worry. I understand the importance of providing comprehensive advice to individuals who are in the process of applying to clubs. It can be super difficult if you don't know what you're looking for or what you should do, or things like that. So I made a list that I'm going to provide. It has some key points. I'm going to try to go into as much detail as I can without taking up too much time. And if you have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to ask in the, you know. So I'll reply to you. I'll try my best anyway. So number one is to avoid coming off as pushy. So, when applying to clubs, it's super crucial to approach the process with a respectful and considerate attitude. So, being overly pushy or demanding with your interactions with any of the members or leaders or anything, it can kind of create a bad impression. And this kind of list is based on how to not create a bad impression, even if you're not trying to. So, like, for example, a lot of people DM members asking for recommendations, or they bombard the questions channel with things that are easily answered in the FAQ section. Um, it's totally okay to do research on that club and ask questions if you have questions that aren't frequently asked questions and are already answered somewhere else. But like if it's been answered a million times and it's in the FAQ, that can kind of create a bad impression that you're not really paying attention to what is already there. Adding on to that, it's important not to continuously inquire about final acceptance decisions, or like when applications are opening again, because that's also found in the FAQ, and final acceptance decisions kind of vary based on what everyone's what time people have, pretty much. So it creates unnecessary pressure for on the leaders and the members and everyone. So just make sure you try not to do that. And before applying, just make sure to thoroughly read through the club's requirements to make sure you meet all the criteria, because it's worth noting that clubs often discard applications from the beginning of people who don't meet requirements. So it's super important to address any eligibility concerns beforehand. So that's kind of why a lot of the questions like what level are you, that's why those are at the top. How old are you? What level are you? Like, if you look at any application, that's why those are at the top. Those are the most important, and they make sure that you meet the criteria before going more into what, like, the questions that are like, tell us about yourself, because I promise they don't want to know about you if you don't even meet the requirements. And I know it sounds super mean, but there's a lot of applications to go through in like high demand clubs, so they're probably not even gonna read the rest of your application, or maybe they'll wince over it. But it's super important that you meet the criteria first. So yeah. Number two is to keep your original application. this might not apply to the club you're applying to, but if the club you're applying to has a second voice interview stage, or if you anticipate being asked questions about your initial application, it's recommended that you keep a copy of the original application, because keeping your application nearby allows you to refer back to it during the interview or any like subsequent discussions, like anything regarding your application. So it's common among a lot of people, since it can be a stressful process to forget certain details or feel nervous during interviews, and having your application readily available can help you provide accurate and consistent responses when you're asked. And it actually demonstrates your organization and commitment to the application process. I promise that they pick up on that. It's something that you should really consider. Number 3 is to avoid asking about like weird questions that kind of give cold feet, like leadership changes or things like that. So like when engaging with like club leaders and members and you're in the questions channel, it's important to avoid asking about like what happens if owner steps down, what then, who's going to be the new owner. Like it's kind of weird. And while it might be natural to have questions or concerns because you're curious, and especially like regarding the stability of the club's leadership, like directly inquiring about those matters can give an impression that you are interested in assuming such a role, if you know what I mean. And I mean, that might not be your intention, but a lot of the times the way people phrase it, it's kind of what it looks like. So instead, focus on understanding the club's mission, activities, values, and how you can contribute positively as a member. And then maybe one day, if someone does step down, you might be someone they can fall back on to keep the club up and going. But asking about it right away is kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of weird. So number 4 is to be honest in your application, and that is such a given, but it's so easy to tell if you're lying. Like, I'm so serious. If you say you're 18 years old and you type like a 12-year-old, we know you're not 18, right? So one of the fundamental principles when applying to clubs is to maintain absolute honesty throughout the whole process. Because if you double back on yourself, they will notice. And so it's so important never to lie or fabricate any information on your application. I mean, you can make yourself look good and sound fancy and whatever, and then end up not actually being that fancy. That's understood. Like, I don't know. I don't usually talk about this with these big words, and like, I don't say fabricate. I say lie. But I'm presenting myself well. But like, if you are straight up lying about your life, that's kind of weird. So it can lead to significant repercussions, and it can even compromise your relationship with the entire club or team. So lying about your age can make an uncomfortable environment within your club, and in most cases, if it's discovered that you lied about your age and you still fall within the acceptable age range, the consequences may involve like strained dynamics, but like, you won't be immediately kicked out in most clubs. Well, that's what I've experienced anyway. So when someone would lie about their age but it found out that they're still like acceptably there, I've seen them stay, but it was just kind of weird, so yeah. But if you lied about your age to gain entry into the club, and it's found out that you lied about that, it's super likely you're just gonna face immediately, like, you're gonna get kicked out. Like, that's just how it is. So always be truthful and transparent in your application. And a lot of the age requirements are pretty low, like 13. That's pretty young. So yeah, don't do that. Number 5, the last one, is don't hesitate to reapply, because if your first application to a club is unsuccessful, I know, you're so sad, but it's important to not be discouraged or disheartened, and you'll see a lot of people say that. But it's true. Many long-term members of like high-demand clubs faced rejections initially before gaining acceptance later on. So like, I know there's someone who like applied to Terrific Tigers like 6 times or something, and I'm sure there's been like more than that. I don't know. But rejection does not necessarily mean that you were unfit for the club. It's just due to the competitive selection process or limited openings. It's kind of hard to. It's hard to choose. I promise. It's not that you're unfit. It's just a hard choice, and take the opportunity to assess your application and then seek feedback if it's available in that club. If it's not available, if they don't give feedback, just try to reflect on your own ways to strengthen your candidacy for the future application cycles, because if you just do the exact same thing you did last time and then it's equally as rigorous, well, you'll probably get like booted again, So reapplying demonstrates your persistence, your dedication, and your continued interest in being a part of that club, and with that persistence you increase your chances of eventually gaining acceptance, and that's super fun, right? So don't hesitate to reapply. You should do it. If you want to be in that club bad enough, you should totally do it. It's worth the wait. I have a bonus, one that isn't really about applications, but I've seen it as a problem a lot in the clubs that I have been in. So when you're considering joining a club, it's so crucial to evaluate whether your schedule aligns with the club's activities and commitments and things like that. So honesty regarding your availability it's essential, pretty much, to ensure that you can like fully participate and contribute to club initiatives. Sorry, I'm being super fancy right now, but I've seen it a lot. There are long-term absences that you can go on. There are absences. A lot of clubs only require 2 events per week, which isn't much. It's super lenient. But if you're experiencing burnout, like, and you're applying to another club, and then you're applying to another club to like get away from that burnout, like maybe you need to take a break. So this kind of goes into like the lying on your application. It's so important to not lie or make false commitments, because this can lead to like difficulties and like conflicts down the line, and you'll probably get kicked out. So if you're experiencing burnout or you anticipate conflicting obligations or things like that, it's so important to like openly and honestly communicate about those circumstances, even like in your application. So being transparent about your limitations or like temporary unavailability, it allows everyone to make informed decisions and ensures that spots are allocated to individuals who can actively contribute. So honesty is always valued and appreciated. So please do that. That's a big part of this. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have. If you have any other questions, I will answer them. When you're applying, make sure you approach it with respect, integrity, and transparency. If you take anything out of this, respect, integrity, transparency, it's super important. Yeah, so ensure that everything aligns, ensure you're ready, and by following these little guidelines that I've kind of given you, it increases your chances of having a successful club application success full yes. So good luck with your application. I don't know what club you're thinking of applying to, but if you want to let me know, I will totally reply to you, I promise. pinky promise. Unless this blows up and I have like a million trillion comments, then no, that probably won't happen. So, good luck with your club application, and yeah, thank you. Good luck.